Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Stateside Market Report with Tim Robinson and Bryant Naylor. Bryant, you don't have any lights. You look sad.
I am sad.
Oh,
Cool
buddy.
lights in the background. I got nothing.
You got a new router, everybody. No one cares, but we like to keep it real. There's no lights. My light is little and blue, but not as cool as Bryant's. But anyways, we're here to talk real estate. Bryant, what are you seeing in the market? We're sticking to our script now. On the month, we're going to do 4 separate parts. This is the first week of the month, so we are going to do a market update to let folks know what's going on in the DC metro area. So let's start there. What are you seeing out there, Bryant?
It's stabilizing in the new market environment. I'm seeing the new homes coming up on the market weekly. Sorry, I was adjusting my microphone. Staying very consistent. Days on market's very consistent, and the pricing is staying consistent and or going up.
Which is crazy.
Right.
Which is crazy because it is, things are not working as they are supposed to on a macroeconomic scale here in the DC metro area. Theoretically, what the Fed is doing by continuing to raise things like 25 basis points, they're probably going to do it one more time this year. Some people say 2. We'll see what happens. But as the interest rates go up, the whole point is to bring prices down. And it can't work, and we've harped on this ad nauseum because the lack of inventory. So while it's working in a lot of parts of the country and it's working with unemployment, I mean, it's Powell and them are doing what they can to bring inflation under control. They've done a really good job. But one of the biggest sectors of the American economy is the housing market, and it has gone down in places that were overinflated by COVID and just, Boise, Idaho, and Austin, Texas, and these places where they were up 30%. It has come back to reality. But in DC, as prices continue, and I say that obviously, when we say DC, we mean Maryland, DC, and Virginia. As prices continue to tick up on the interest rates, we are just not seeing a commensurate decrease in home prices at all. Like they haven't gone up as much as they have over the past couple of years, but they're certainly not going down. There was a time there, and I think it was probably like last summer when the rates really started to uptick, where we saw price decreases across the board. And I mean that just by when you get your listing alerts, it's price decrease here, price decrease there. And you saw that because people were kind of freaking out. And now I think it is just we're back to the new normal.
Exactly.
People still have to move. People still need places to live. People still need places to put their money as investors. And so we're seeing 7.5 in the low 8% for investment properties. People are like, that's where we are now. We still need to do these things. The economy keeps ticking. There's still not enough houses for people that want them. And so there's just no room for the prices to drop. So it's status quo for the most part. Like I honestly don't see what can happen on the federal level in terms of interest rates that are just going to change that. I think the only thing that will change that is just an influx of new builds, which is also not going to happen for all the reasons we've talked about, because there's not enough space. It's very expensive to do that, and it takes a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it is, so we had a call with Tanya this morning, where she had a townhouse in Woodbridge, and we'll just get specifics. She listed it at $299. She had 130 showings in 4 days, and what she got 35 offers. You were one of them. 35 offers, 33 offers. That's nuts.
That's insane.
This is obviously a very specific neighborhood in Woodbridge, desirable. She priced it very low to kind of stir up, she's a good listing agent, to kind of stir up interest and stuff like that. But that's an insane number of offers within 4 days of showings. So this is where we're at. This has not changed. This has not changed with the interest rates. This is the same thing we were seeing when it was down at 3.5%, 4%. It's hot. It's a hot market, I think, is, the way we can sum it up. And I think painting those examples and telling it through stories is helpful for people to see that. And I don't want to paint the picture like it's impossible to get a house anywhere. Like that is just a very specific strategy that brought in the exact desired results that she wants. But that's showing how much interest there is and how many people are waiting for that house that fits their budget and their metrics. So yeah, it's a hot market. Anything, Bryant? You want to add nothing?
Yeah,
no, I'm just trying to lob it up for you.
I was just gonna say, so I did the open house for that, for her listing. I probably had 30 groups come by in 2 hours. And what I kept hearing from everybody as I was talking to people moving in and out of the house was, yeah, we were waiting for interest rates to come down, but we realize that they're not going to. So now we have to get on the horse and buy something. Or yeah, we were waiting for interest rates to come down or prices to fall. But that's just not happening, and we need to buy. And now we're up against a timeline deadline, and we need to buy something. So I heard that over and over again at that open house, and started to really realize that the new normal has sunk in.
Yes.
And Tanya, she had 33 offers, and only like 4 or 5 of those were all cash. Most everybody was financing. And so that just goes to show you, like, that's how many people are now okay with a 7-8% interest rate.
Right. Yeah.
Before, we were getting a lot of offers, but not at like the 7% interest rate environment. So I really feel like the new norm is settling in. If interest rates do go down a little bit, they go down to 6% by the end of the year or so, who knows? The demand is going to be through the roof.
It's going
Like
to be insane.
130 showings in 4 days with 7% interest rates. That's nuts.
Yeah.
That's
I
nuts. Think of that at like
honestly,
6% interest rates. There's going to be 200 people at those open houses, or at those looking at these properties. And that's how much more competition you're going to get. Then the difference between an 8% interest rate, or 7% interest rate, and a 6% interest rate, roughly $10,000 of buying power per point or so. You might end up paying a little bit more right now for a property with interest. Your payments might be a little bit higher, and if you try to wait for interest rates to come down a little bit, you're probably going to be competing with 100 offers for some of these places. And then you're going to get to the point where you're just tired of putting in offers, and it might be discouraging. So, there is a little bit to say about trying to find something while interest rates are a little bit higher, because it does curb a little bit of demand, or people looking.
yeah.
So competition goes down just a little bit, but it's still really high.
No, I think that's really smart, Brian. And like what people have to look, and this is why, you talk to folks like us that see how these things work in tandem with each other. Because yes, let's say you get that $10,000 purchasing power back by waiting for it to drop a point. You're going to get massively increased competition because a lot of people are doing that. And then you might end up overbidding by $20,000, $30,000 to
Absolutely.
get the same house. So the delta there is you're still negative net 20,000. So what's the benefit there? I would argue there is none. And always, this is something where we can't predict rates. We don't have a crystal ball and stuff like that. But I'm encouraging all of my clients that at some point, in my humble opinion, over the next 5 to 7 years, the average time a person holds a mortgage in America is 7 years. So even if you hold this house for 30 years, you're not going to have that same mortgage product for 30 years. In the next 5 to 7 years, I don't see any way in which it cannot go down by at least a point. So if we're at 7.5, it might go down to 5. I don't think it'll go down to 5, but it might go down to 6.5 for sure. At that point, it typically makes sense to pay the money to refinance and get your lower monthly rate. So, we always say, I don't know, they say, marry the house, not the rate. Marry the house, date the rate. So if you get in at a point where you can afford, where you're comfortable, where you're not, pulling in all ins to make it the mortgage payment every month, you have a little bit of flexibility there, a little bit cushion, so you're comfortable. Sometime within the next 5 to 7 years, in all likelihood, you are going to be able to refinance into a lower mortgage rate. So find that property, do it now. You're either going to do it now and the rate's going to go up because the Fed raises the basis points by another half before the end of the year,
Mhm.
or you do it now and you refinance it. You can't lose by doing it now, as long as you find the right property within your means so that you're comfortable. Because honestly, I don't want it to go back down right now because it's already too competitive. And there are those people, no matter what we say, no matter how many millions of people watch this on a weekly, and by this, I mean the Stateside Weekly Market Report, we do have millions of subscribers. So no matter how many millions of you watch this every week and take what we say for granted, if it drops back down, there are still people that are waiting for it to drop. No matter how many times we say it's not going to drop right now, and if it does, it's just going to increase competition. There are those many people that are waiting, and when it hits under 7 again, or when it hits that magic 6.5 or 6, everyone's going to flood back in, and it's just it's going to be messy. So I'd encourage you to try to get in now. Not being salesy, but just kind of like think of the broader spectrum, and like the competition is here. at this rate. If it goes lower, just imagine all those people that have been waiting.
It's going to be
Um,
exponential growth.
I don't want it to happen. Like,
I
stay
know.
here for a while. Like, I'm not touting higher interest rates, but I kind of am. Like it's already competitive enough. If it goes down, it's going to get crazy. Uh, yeah. So I mean
But
that's
crazy
I don't know
will
how long that was.
prevail. Like,
Crazy.
and crazy will prevail. Like I say that to all my clients, like we cannot control crazy people. We can't
Right.
control crazy. So, you might be, the interest rate might be a little lower. A house might be 300,000 like Tanya's, and it might go for 100,000 over that price because
Yes.
you can't control a crazy person that just wants that property and will do everything in their power to get it because they're sick of competing. They're sick of losing offers, over and over and over again. They're just like, this is the one I
This
want
is the
it.
one.
I'll pay
Yeah.
whatever. And those are the people you have to try competing with. And it's hard to do.
It's hard. It's hard. Yeah. So not to we're seriously not fear mongers. I hate all the headlines that are like buy now, recession, blah blah blah, all this impending doom. Nothing like that. Just think about all the options. Think about these macro things and how they affect you. Think about your own personal journey. What makes you comfortable? What your purchasing power is. I mean, another thing I want to touch on briefly is we do have clients that have been looking for over a year. We do have clients that have lost 8, 9, 10 offers. And their purchasing power a year ago was significantly more than it is now, strictly because of interest rates. So they are looking at a whole different variety of houses, whereas they might have been looking up to 600, 650. They're now looking at houses in 500, 550. That's different neighborhoods. You know what I mean? So interest rates are a really big deal. So these are all just things to take into consideration. What you're comfortable with, where you really want to be as homeowners in terms of geography, and how are things going to look in the next 5 to 7 years? No one knows for sure. We can take our best guesses, but one thing I do know for sure is it's going to continue to be competitive. And it's a big metro area, but it's condensed. Like there's not all this place to build unless you want to get really far. And then it's a different strategy, and that's much less competitive the further you radiate out from DC. So this is all just stuff we're trying to say in 8, 9, 10 minutes. Give us a call. We can talk you through it a little bit more in terms of your specific strategy. But we are not seeing any indicators of the housing market slowing down, of competition subsiding by any means.
Not around
Going into
here.
the winter, no, it'll be interesting to see what happens in the winter. I mean, it typically cyclically slows down in the real estate cycle, but I don't see any signs of that. So yeah.
Yeah, especially if interest rates level off, go a little bit lower or whatever, and people want to sell that have been kind of locked into their houses with their low interest rate, they might need to sell or be more willing to sell. And yeah, it might be a crazy second half of the year, but
Yeah,
that we'll just have to see.
we'll be here for the crazy. So I think that's pretty good.
But we can't control it.
We can't control the crazy. Embrace the crazy. All right. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Stateside Market Report Update Weekly with Bryant Naylor and Tim Robinson.
Pretty good. Pretty good.
What's our schedule for next week? Next week we do a home buying and selling process tip.
Yes.
Okay. And then we'll come back with some
No. Next week's investing, then it's buying and selling, then it's a tip trick.
There, we're getting it. Next week's investing tips and tricks, and then buying and selling process, and then what was the other one? Hacks, life
Tips
hacks.
and hacks. Yeah.
Tips and hacks in real estate, not life, but real estate is life, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Insane.
All right. Until next time, smash that subscribe, share it with folks. Let's get the word out to the other few million that still aren't listening to this. People need to know. Until next week, I'm Tim Robinson, Bryant Naylor. Have a great week, guys.
Bye.